Hello there, it's Elaine Lindsay of True Social Media and your host for Business Banter Plus TV. I'm very excited to be here today with a repeat guest, Stan Phelps. Hi, Stan.
Hi, how you doing, Elaine?
Great, except for our snow. I know you don't have that problem where you are in North Carolina. It's much more beautiful down there. But I wanted to just go through sort of how Stan and I met through the guys at Switch and Shift, Ted Coyne, Mark Babbitt, and Sean Murphy, back many years ago. And I was absolutely fascinated by Lagniappe. And that's the first thing that I had heard from Stan. And that's something we'll go into today. But Stan started with a book called Purple Goldfish. He's done an entire series now, and I did get to talk to him for both the gold and the green. However, we're now 5 colors in, and I think at least 6 books. So that's what we're going to definitely talk about today. I want to give you a little bit of background. Stan's been in marketing for more than 25 years. Hard to imagine, you look so young.
Thank
Stan
you.
has spoken on, get this, every inhabited continent. I just think that's amazing. And I understand you've presented more than 250 keynotes.
Keynotes and workshops, yes.
And workshops, okay. Stan's a best-selling author of, as I mentioned, the Purple Goldfish series. It began as a trilogy, and there's some really interesting stuff on that we'll touch on again, I think. He's an experienced architect, a TEDx speaker, and I am just so thrilled to have him here with me today. We're going to talk about the latest book in the series, Red Goldfish. Stan, I believe you had a co-author, Graham Newell. You talk about purpose, I understand, and
Right.
share some cutting-edge examples and reveal 8 business strategies or 8 ways businesses can embrace purpose in driving employee engagement, fueling the bottom line, and making a really great impact on the lives of those it serves. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this again. I love having you on the show.
No, so happy to be here.
This has become, you know, I understood when we first started with Purple, it was going to be a trilogy.
Right.
And you know, I guess Lagniappe itself goes much further than just a trilogy.
Sure. So I'm not sure how many colors, Elaine, that we'll ultimately end up with. As you mentioned, this is the 5th color, which is Red Goldfish. And I already know that the next one will be pink, and the one after that will be platinum. I won't get into those, but yeah, it's a passion of mine, and excited about Red Goldfish, because I think, you know, business is changing, and Red really touches on how important purpose will be going forward. And I believe by 2020, it will become the ultimate differentiator in business.
And I know when I was reading up on Red Goldfish and what you looked into, I think it's really fascinating that you also say that the difference between profit and not-for-profit isn't going to be a thing anymore. It's going to be those with purpose and those that don't have purpose.
Yeah, so absolutely. You know, if we think about just 20 years ago, business was binary. You either made the choice that you were going to be for-profit, or you went the nonprofit route. And typically the nonprofit route was more purpose-driven.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you had a choice for your career, or if you were going to go into business. Did you kind of sell out and just try to make, you know, greed is good and chase the bottom line? Or did you actually do something that gave back and had a greater purpose? But probably you were like a struggling artist, right? You're always trying to keep it going, and I just think that you know, going forward, business has changed to the extent that you no longer have to make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
You no longer have to be a for-profit to make a difference. You can be a nonprofit to make a difference. You can be a for-profit that does things differently.
And I think you started that. You talked about, I can think way back, but Zappos.
Zappos, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're not just about selling shoes. You know, Zappos has a greater purpose, which is all about kind of delivering happiness.
Yeah.
And you know, they did something. You know, they're such an amazing company because they literally did something that people said was impossible, to be able to sell shoes online.
Yeah.
And what was amazing is they created literally $1 billion a year business without spending hardly any money whatsoever, Elaine, on traditional advertising. Yeah. And they did it by investing in the experience that you had. You know, 1 year to return product, you know, free shipping both ways, unlimited call times if you had any issues with just kind of over the top customer service or customer loyalty, as they describe it. And, you know, just an amazing, and even doing the little things like upgrading people's shipping to overnight if they were a return customer. They saw that money that they invested in their customers not as an expense, but as an investment, a marketing investment into their future. And I thought, you know, Tony and the whole team there was very future thinking in that approach.
Oh, absolutely. And I know in my journey, even before I met you, I had heard about Tony Hsieh and Zappos because of a woman in Vegas who was a bridesmaid, forgot her shoes, and they actually brought the shoes to the hotel.
Their hotel, yeah.
Yeah, it was, you know, for a woman, fairy story, getting shoes delivered.
Sure.
Absolutely the best of all possible worlds. But not to get too far back into purple and talk about red, that truly is purpose driven.
Right.
And I guess we have what is it, Tom's, the shoes?
Tom's shoes, yeah. They're one of the brands that we talk about in the book. I mean, you're starting to see businesses that are really developed around a social purpose.
Yeah.
And so Tom's, you know, Blake Mykoski, who founded it, it was based upon a trip that he had done to Argentina. Yeah. And he saw that, you know, kids didn't have access to go to school because they didn't have shoes. And, you know, he founded the company, and, you know, the basis right off the bat was every pair that he sold, one pair would be given away to somebody in the developing world. And so I think that's that one-to-one model.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Baked right into the business. It's not something that you do after the fact, is super strong.
No, and as a matter of fact, the earrings that I have on are from a company that is out of Haiti called Deux Mains, the French for two hands.
Right.
And it was started by one of the corporate people from, I think it's United Way. She went to Haiti after the disaster in, don't get me right here, you know, back in the 2000s. Sure. She went down, and basically they were living in tents trying to help. And she said right from the get-go, a woman had come up to her who didn't speak any English. It was, you know, Creole, Patios French. Right. And she finally got someone to translate. And the woman was saying, well, thank you. Yeah, water's good, but that's not what I want. I need a job. I need to feed my family.
Right, two hands. That's amazing.
Yeah. And the woman, she had been in Kenya when they started making the sandals from rubber tires. And she thought, you know what? Let's do that here. Says that honestly, the first few years, those sandals were horrific. And they have since branched out into accessories, earrings, some really great little cord holders for all your tech stuff.
Right.
And it's a fabulous company. And she says that she lives in a better tent now. But she's now full-time. And talk about, you know, the business being of purpose.
Right.
No two ways about that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more than happy to give a shout out. Now, I'll leave that at the end of our video, the name of the company as well, because it's really quite useful. Now, I know that like myself and a lot of other people, Walt Disney and the whole concept of Disney really speaks to the ultimate bright business plan.
Sure. Yeah. So Disney is similar to Zappos, is a brand that it seems to come up in all of my books.
Yeah.
Because they not only get it about the customer, they also understand how important the employee is.
Yes.
You know, and Disney, when Disneyland was founded back in 1955, you know, that purpose of wanting to create the happiest place on earth was something that drove them from day one. And when that's your goal, you understand that as an employee, or as they say it at Disney, a cast member.
Cast member.
Or I love this, an Imagineer.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
That your work takes on a much different and higher ideal.
Yeah.
And you know, Walt Disney was such an influence for me, because this idea of lagniappe, which we should probably give the background, it's a Creole
Yes.
word. It literally means the gift or to do more. And so the idea is, if you're down in New Orleans, you know, it's customary for the business to do a little something extra.
Yeah.
Something that gets added kind of for good measure.
Yeah.
And Disney literally lived that principle. In fact, Walt he was so enamored with the idea of doing a little bit more that he actually had his own word for it. He called it plussing. So plus, as in to do just, he would drive the Imagineers and the cast members crazy, because is there a way just to do a little bit more each time and make it just a little bit better and a little bit more customized and a little bit more personal? Yeah. So he's a huge, huge inspiration.
Yeah, and I know that thread does tie through the books, and I wanted you to maybe expand on the fact that, you know, in the second book, in Green Goldfish, you're now talking about the employee aspect and how it really does benefit a company to take the employee into consideration.
Yeah, so I would like to think that my work has been an evolution, Elaine.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, because I was a marketing guy, that the customer is where the sun rose and set, and everything it was customer, take care of the customer, put them first.
Yeah.
What I quickly realized was that the companies that really got it for the customer, we mentioned Zappos or even Disney, and there are tons of others. What amazed me is they even got it more so for their employees. So they would practice that same idea of doing the little extra,
Mm-hmm.
but they would actually put more of an emphasis and put the employee first, because we mentioned Ted Poinet earlier from Switch and Shift.
Yeah.
He put it, I think, the best. He said, you can't have enthused customers unless you have happy, engaged employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so so if I look at my work, it was, you know, I thought customer first, and then I realized, oh no, maybe it's employee first, customer second. Well, I would tell you what I now tell people, it's actually purpose first.
Yeah.
Employee second, customer third, profit last, or shareholder last.
Yeah.
Because if you can get those three things correct, the profits take care of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because and on much smaller scale, your best customer is the one you have right now.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people, oh, could you put Purple Goldfish into one sentence? And I tell people, you know, Purple was about trying to shift the marketing paradigm. Because when we think marketing, we think about the prospect. We think about the funnel. And I think that's the incorrect way nowadays to think about it with social, is that you put your customer first, and if you take care of the customer that you have, they'll bring you the customer that you want.
Yeah.
And I think what most businesses discount or they don't realize is that they think that someone who comes in my door because they've seen an advertisement, that they're equal to someone who's been referred to that business. And they're nowhere near equal. This person that's been referred, upwards of 4 times as valuable.
Wow.
Because over their lifetime, they come back more often, they stay longer. They typically spend up to twice the amount of money. And this is the key thing, because they've been referred themselves, what do you think they're more apt to do?
They can refer others.
So over their lifetime, they refer up to twice the amount of people.
Wow.
So, you know, once you start that, and that's where I think Zappos really was successful, because every day about 80% of the people that shop at Zappos are people that are returning to the brand.
Yeah.
You know, it's very hard to live as a business if you can only get half the people to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know that, I'm not sure if it's the next book or the book after that, where you talk about that top 20%.
Yeah, so again, it was an evolution for me. So purple was all about the customer. Green, because we talked about, green was all about the employee and the idea of doing little things for your employee. But the significance of green was that it was beyond the dollars that you pay.
Yeah.
Right? Because ultimately, money will get you a little bit of motivation, but not a sustainable amount. And so it was about the little things that you did beyond dollars. And then I realized that the smart companies, Elaine, they really understood who their best employees and their best customers are. And to your point, it's really about the top 20%. Because in most businesses, the top 20% of customers drive 80% of profitability. And the same thing in a business, your top 20% of employees probably drive 80% of the value that you create. So they become what we call in that book the vital few, as opposed to the trivial many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, to really simplify it, I think that we all thrive best when people are putting into us what they expect to get out. Right. And you know, I think I said this to you before a long, long time ago, but in essence, each one of us is everyone else's customer. Whether it's your beautiful wife, Jennifer, or one of your boys, or my grandkids, or my husband, even in business, okay, each of those people, when you're talking to someone, you're ultimately making a sale of some sort. So treating everyone the way you want to be treated,
right,
stands to reason you're going to have a better result.
Yeah. You know, Elaine, one of my favorite quotes, and it comes right here from North Carolina. There's a company that's right in my backyard. I live in a town called Cary, North Carolina, and there's a business there. It's called the SAS Institute, and they're SAS, SAS. They're a software as a service. They're one of the pioneers in terms of big data and managing your data to drive your business.
Right.
They've had years where they have had less than 2% of their employees leave. And they're always one of these, and the amount of benefits that they do is on par with, say, like a Google or any other top company.
Wow.
But the founder of the company, his name's Dr. Jim Goodnight. They ask him, they say, why are you do these things? You know, why are you doing these things? And this is one of my favorite sentences from the entire book. He said, you know what? If you treat your employees like they matter, they will. And that you just echoed that before, right? If you treat people, you're gonna get that in return, right?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. So I want to, because it's been so long since we talked about it. There's a few things that really stuck out every time we talked, and it's about how you decided to do the Purple Goldfish Project.
Right.
You were 1001. How that came about, that moment of clarity for you. Let's go through some of the pieces, because I want people to get a better understanding of just how deeply you think about this.
Well, to your point, I had a pretty clear moment of truth, which led me to go out and try to collect 1,001 examples, which I did. And before I get into the moment of truth, I'll share what I tell everyone about. If you ever get an idea to collect 1,001 of anything, here's my advice: don't. I was just in Alaska last week, and this story killed up in Alaska. I said I should have taken advice that someone gave me about cross-country skiing. Elaine, have you ever done cross-country?
Yeah.
So this is the advice that it's hard, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the person said that if I ever decided that I wanted to take up cross-country skiing, here was the advice. He said, start with a small country.
Oh, that's so good.
I didn't take that advice. I think I could have collected 501 examples, and it would have been impressive. But so to give background, I worked for about 20 years in marketing, and the last 8 I worked for an agency, and we did larger than life experiential events, product launches, PR stunts, sponsorship activations, crazy stuff.
The largest in the world, I believe.
Yeah, one of them was, I mean, it sounds like so silly now. We helped create the world's largest logo.
Yeah.
And we did it in Area 51, Nevada.
Yeah.
And it was the KFC logo, the Colonel. And it was so big you could see it from space. And I know that because we shot it with the Google satellite.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance, Google KFC face from space, you can see it. But yeah, so I was doing all these big things. I was getting a little disenfranchised with, these things that weren't sustainable.
Yeah.
They weren't scalable. I was seeing a tremendous amount of change back in 2007, 2008. I decided there had to be a better way. And I'll never forget this. It's a summer night in New York City. I'm at one of these really nice rooftop bars in Manhattan, and I'm drinking as you only can and enjoying in Manhattan a $15 beer. I don't think it's possible to enjoy a $15 beer.
No.
But so I'm with a colleague before going to this networking event, and I noticed this older gentleman sitting across from us. And it's obvious to me after a while that this guy is waiting for someone. And I can see him kind of scan the room every few minutes. And so I start to feel bad for him. So I lean in and I say, excuse me. I said, do you know we spend 10% of our life waiting? And he looked at me kind of, and I looked at him, I said, I know that's true because I once read it on the internet. So it has to be true. And he laughed, and I said, you must be waiting. He goes, yeah. He says, I am waiting for somebody. And I looked at him, I said, well, obviously they're not on time. And Elaine, you know this, he gave me the strangest look, and he said, on time? He said, no one's ever on time. I said, wait a second, I've been on time before. And I'll never forget this. He raised his finger to me and he gave me the Dikembe finger wave. And he said, no. He said, no one in life is ever on time. He said, in fact, on time is a myth. He said, people in life are either early or they're late. No one is ever on time. And I literally, it struck me later that night. I go, that same reasoning applies to the customers that we serve every day. No one just meets the expectation of a customer. You either exceed them or you fall short. And so I literally, that was where the project was born. I said, you know, I'm going to try to look for companies that purposefully did a little bit more to exceed those expectations, that went beyond just the transaction, to do something to honor the relationship. And it wasn't easy. I thought it was going to take a few months. It took over 2 years. But it led me on this journey, and I mentioned Lanyap, which was, you know, a big kind of inspiration. But I sought out companies that had that signature thing that they did, that little something extra. And that's been kind of the impetus for all of the books.
And I know one of the ones that's memorable to me.
Yeah, which one?
DoubleTree.
DoubleTree, right?
Because I've had their cookies and they're amazing.
Amazing. I have a good friend of mine, Jeff Hazlett. Jeff used to be the CMO for Kodak.
Right.
And Jeff is such a fan of the DoubleTree chocolate chip cookie.
Oh,
he says that he dreams about the cookie when he stays at other hotels.
No, that's good.
I did a cross-country trip this summer, and I stopped in Nashville. And Nashville, other than being a fantastic place that Nashville is, one of the things that makes it awesome is that it's home for the Christie Cookie Company.
Oh.
And that's where all of the dough for DoubleTree chocolate chip cookies is made.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've got the recipe there, and that was a fun place to stop by. But they've been giving away this cookie, Elaine, since all the way back in the mid-1980s.
Wow.
Last year, they gave away their 300 millionth chocolate chip cookie.
That is such a number to wrap your head around.
It is. And, you know, they, and everybody gets one. You know, they said back in the 1980s that it was commonplace if you were a VIP to get that, you know, the cookie or that little extra
chocolate on the pillow.
And they said, you know what? All of our customers are VIPs. Yeah. And the chocolate chip cookie was born. And it's not that it's just a regular cookie, because anybody can do a regular cookie. Theirs is, if you've had them before, I mean, they're big, they're packed with chocolate chips, they're warm.
I used to say they're warm, is what's the best
individually wrapped. I mean, they're, I can remember myself, literally the first business trip that I did over 20 years ago. I'm traveling on business, flight's delayed, I get into Atlanta, I've missed dinner, I'm cranky, I just want to get into my hotel room. And they handed me that cookie. And it was like a gift from heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's the biggest point. And whether it's big corporations or whether you're just an entrepreneur, a solopreneur with a little business, it's about just taking into consideration what little added bit of value can you give your customer that you'd appreciate.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to, and you know, you're proving point, it doesn't have to be money. It's quite often, you know, and I know quite often employees will tell you they would prefer recognition. They would prefer to have your values aligned with your company than just be handed money.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, when they've given away, you know, like a water bottle, they've proven that that's more impactful than getting an equal amount of money or even more money.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, if I look for one takeaway through all my books, is that little things can truly make the biggest difference, and that most people think of, you know, the customer or the employee as we've got to do this big gesture, we've got to you know, it's some type of Trojan horse that's going to roll in and kind of save the day. No, it's more like Trojan goldfish. Do little things and multiple little things, and take kind of that agile mindset. Try things.
Yeah.
See what sticks.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you came back to goldfish, because I think the cutest one is
Kimpton, yeah.
Hotels.
Yes, they were kind of one of the inspirations behind goldfish. They so if you don't know Kimpton's like 60 some odd boutique hotels throughout the United States, and I think even in Canada. And they none of them are called Kimpton, so that's a little bit of a trick question.
Yeah.
They're all boutique, but one of the signature things that they do, by the way, they absolutely, Elaine, get the customer experience.
Oh yeah.
So gourmet coffee in the lobby, wine tasting in the afternoon, super pet friendly. But here's my favorite and the inspiration. At some of the Kimpton properties, maybe you're there on business, you're getting a little bit lonely. They will give you a pet goldfish for your stay.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And I love that. Could you imagine, and they encourage you to like name your goldfish. Is there any chance that that's not going to be on your Facebook feed,
Oh my God,
on your Twitter, Instagram, and you're not telling everybody when you get back to the office about that experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just brilliant, beyond brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, they were a big inspiration. I mean, there's a little bit of a bigger story on how a goldfish grows and how that impacts your business. We won't have time for that, but there's some nice parallels in terms of how you grow and the importance at the end of the day on how you differentiate on that experience that you provide.
Those 5 things. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 things. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get back into red goldfish then, because our time's a little short today. But I know, I believe that you're talking about millennials and what it is that millennials look for,
right?
And how that relates to purpose.
Yeah. I think we're very close. We're less than 3 years away, Elaine, from millennials being this. Do you remember this when you were a kid? The greater than?
Yes.
You remember that equals?
Yep.
Less than?
Yep.
We don't use that enough, I think.
No.
Do you ever get pulled over by a police officer who's like, excuse me, you're going greater than 65 miles per hour? Millennials by 2020 will become 51% of the workforce.
Wow.
And if you think that is a stunner, by 2025, they're upwards of 75% of the workforce. Whoa. Now, I don't like to stereotype, but I think as a rule, this younger generation, whether it's millennial or even the generation Y that's right behind them, or Z or whatever, Z I think it is, yeah. They're looking at businesses a lot differently than myself as a Gen Xer, in that it's not just about the paycheck. They want to feel like they are part of something that has a purpose greater than themselves. Yeah. And it no longer can be just about maximizing profit.
No, and more than that, they feed on social. And having that social component is actually, I think it's a great thing. It's why I'm in that area.
Right.
But millennials, they basically, a lot of them have never not known a lot of this technology.
Right.
From school age, they've been surrounded by video games and computers and you name it, they've got it. And they understand almost, intuitively how to integrate that into their lives.
Right. And the key is they want to work for companies that have embraced what I call a for purpose. It's a for profit company that has a purpose behind it. They want to work for a for-purpose company, but they also want to do business with companies that have a strong purpose.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's not only are you going to retain and keep them engaged, but it's also, all things being equal, 6 out of 7 millennials will buy from a company who has values and a purpose that aligns with their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of, and that's why I think what smart companies will do is really put purpose at the core of everything that they do.
Yeah.
And drive every decision based on it.
And I think it's time the vision statement becomes the purpose statement.
I totally agree. I think
ultimate.
a lot of times people look at mission and purpose and try to equate them, or even vision and purpose.
Yeah.
And I think, purpose becomes that kind of North Star, that reason for being, the reason why that company was founded.
Yeah.
And that never changes. Your mission can kind of change and you can pivot, but that purpose never changes.
Yeah.
And so, understanding the difference between those two, and we talk about it, there's, almost 10 differences between mission and purpose.
And yeah.
Wow,
that's great. That's an opening for me to ask you to come back, because that could be a whole show, learning about those 10 differences.
And at some point, we were talking before, we got to come back and do blue goldfish.
We're absolutely, I really want to do blue goldfish, because we haven't touched on that at all. I am so thankful to have you here again. I realize you're under time constraints today, so I've got my eye on the clock. I am so appreciative. This has been really great. I loved revisiting all of the goldfish, and look forward to our next talk where we'll get the whole story about those 5 reasons. Because you do equate it to business just perfectly.
Oh, I appreciate that. And just one last thing is, I feel like I need to add this. So the first 3 colors were an ode to Mardi Gras, because purple, green, and gold. Red was inspired by Bono.
Oh, wow.
U2's lead singer.
Yeah.
So back in 2006, in fact, I'm wearing a red product right now. He launched with Bobby Shriver what was called the Red Campaign, or Project Red. Yeah. And it was a great little thing that allowed for-profit businesses to create a signature line of products. And it was so simple. You knew if you bought a red product, a portion of those sales would go towards purpose. Or a charitable purpose. In the case of red, it was about Africa.
Yeah.
But it was, I think the simple lesson from that is that for-profit businesses can be a source for good in the world.
Absolutely.
And that little thing reinforced it, yeah.
Okay, so as a closing, I always ask my guests to leave our audience with a simple little tip or tweak that they can implement in their lives, like right now, that's going to get them on that road.
So I'll make it a 2-parter. One, I think you need to be sitting down at your company with the founder, or digging back to figure out what was that reason for being when the company was started. And then I think the second thing you need to ask, and continue to ask, is how are we putting that at the center of our business, and how are we doing the little things that brings that purpose to life for both our customers and our employees.
That's excellent. Excellent. And I will make sure I don't stumble next time and tell you I'm trying to be on time.
There's no such thing as being on time.
Yes, no, I want to be early. That's it.
Elaine, it was a true pleasure.
Thank you so much, Stan. We will have, as usual, the links, etc., up to Stan's company, and it's now Purple Goldfish Project, yes?
Purplegoldfish.com.
.com. Yeah, we It used to be 9-inch marketing, which is great. You can also read about that on Stan's page, along with the replay of this show. I'm Elaine Lindsay. My guest has been Stan Phelps. I'm with True Social Media. I'm your host for Business Banter Plus, and I'll see you next time with our next guest. Until then, make it matter.